her friend, the 35-year-old or whatever, however old he is.
Her 35-year-old boyfriend, maybe?
The hideous freak alarm goes off, I wrote. The hideous freak alarm goes
mean,
off because Tally is spotted.
Is
Well,
that
then
is a
CGI
thing,
her
especially-
feet into like
CGI her feet
6-inch
is something.
stilettos. If they're gonna CGI everything else, why
I
not?
would fucking scream if they had given her CGI feet. Obviously, we'll get into the negatives of Laverne Cox's Socialist Paradise, but
Negatives.
but we'll,
Scared that conservatives were going to be using clips of this movie as propaganda.
well, like that's the thing about this movie is that it's like.
Hi, welcome back to the Final Bros podcast. And I don't want to be free. I want to be pretty. I'm Dorcas Horror.
And I'm a weed, but not a pretty one. Doll thighs.
And on this episode, we're talking about Uglies. Ooh,
The Uggos.
Look at that poster right there.
The Uggos. I wish they had just called it the Uggos.
Yeah, they should call it Uggos. So anyways, this is the brand new 2024 dystopian teen movie based on dystopian teen book by Scott something or another, Westerfield. I remember reading this book in middle school. I didn't remember all the details, but I guess I did remember everything because there isn't really much to this movie.
No, it's very simple.
It's very simple.
I also read the book, but not as a child.
You read it
recently as
just
an adult,
recently.
like a psycho, because I knew we would be doing this episode, and I do like to read books, so I read this book. Yep. Sure was a book I read.
Sure was a book.
And now it's a movie
was.
I've watched.
So anyways, this is it's like they're really trying to and welcome to our lovely brutalist beautiful uglies room that we're in together. Do you like it? Isn't it pretty?
Can I see it? I didn't even know where.
I didn't even show it to you.
You're not even showing it to me.
Here,
I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what's going on here. This digital hellscape in which I live.
What do you mean? We're in the same room together. Look at our beautiful uglies room.
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening to the podcast, just ignore everything we're talking about. Why do you keep making visual references in our audio mostly podcast?
So that people will watch along. Also because we're on video on both YouTube and Spotify, so most people are watching.
Maybe.
I'm not.
Did you like the book when you read this as a child?
I read all the books, so I guess I liked them enough for that. I wasn't like obsessed with them, but I read them all. I read a lot of books. I was a huge reader.
Same. I was a huge reader. As a child, I mostly read horror. As an adult, I'll read whatever garbage you
This wasn't my favorite of the series. I'll say that.
Oh, does it get better?
Define better. I don't really remember the other ones. I remember some of Pretties, the next one. I do not remember there's Uglies, Pretties, something extras, specials, and then extras. I remember extras. Right. I liked extras.
Which, by the way, I don't think in the movie we didn't talk about the specials at all, did we?
Not really.
They're like a big thing in the book.
We'll get there. I think. I don't know.
So,
anyways, this movie is right off the bat. I'm just gonna say, don't watch it. Don't bother. You'll be fine.
The spoilers ahead. If you do decide to watch it,
this movie, the pacing is insane.
It's confusing.
It's like they wanted to fit every scene from the book pretty much into the movie.
I would say there were additional scenes that I don't.
They added. They wanted every scene that's in the book. They wanted to add additional scenes, and in order to fit that in an under 2-hour movie, it meant every scene went at a breakneck pace, but it took forever.
Yeah,
because
it's
there's
a
so
long. It
many of
felt like a
those.
long movie. It
Yeah, it
was
felt
almost 2 hours, I think.
longer than 2 hours. It was like because we start out and they just start immediately jumping into exposition. They're like, "This is the world
Hmm.
we live in. This is what happened. These are the white orchid flowers. This is the surgery. This is Uglies. This is like
Yeah,
it's. I
directly
was
to the camera,
straight to the camera, presented as if like I don't know.
like an audiobook
Yeah,
almost.
it was very strange. It's a very strange way to just like because they don't ease you into the world and
Not at
organically
all.
explain things about the world. They just start telling you about it. It
Yeah, and
was
I would say as a person who has watched a movie before, you don't have to tell me every single detail about a world's existence for me to be able to just watch some characters do some stuff in a setting and like start to catch on to what's going on.
well, the annoying part is later in the movie they do the more organic exposition where like all the stuff that they talk about here, they
They
talk
just talk
about
about it again.
again.
They
But
do, yeah.
in the scenes where it'd be like, okay, like she does like a school presentation about how the
Yeah.
world ended and like pollution and climate
Mhm.
change. I was like, okay, we would have learned about it. You didn't have to tell me that right in the intro.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get introduced to Tally and she's hideous. She's an ugly pig girl. And she goes to her mirror to put on a TikTok filter to dream about being pretty and worth something.
Yeah, and it's the bold glamour filter
He has
from
the bold
TikTok.
glamour filter from
Now,
TikTok.
I have to say right off the bat, reading the book, I had imagined because it's implied that the level of surgery the characters go through, they basically become a completely different person.
Yeah, like they
Like going
morph
from like
into a different being because you
a
can turn yourself
goblin,
into anything.
yeah, like going from like a goblin to like Gigi Hadid is sort of like the idea
Yeah.
of the book. So the fact that like in the movie their transitions tend to be like going from a normal to I would say even like a more attractive looking person to a very attractive person wearing makeup, like that's literally the transition
Yeah.
in most scenes.
The subtext to
Kind of
this movie is the most basic ass like it's what's on the inside that matters. You don't
is
need
that what it is? Is that
it's
the
something like
subtext?
that. Ugh.
We'll get into the
Well,
subtext
I
because
think
I
that's
think
the
there's a lot
intended
more
subtext. I don't
there's a lot more devious subtext going on
but I don't
here.
think the author intended that. I think they're
I don't know about the literally when I read the book, the first thing I think I was halfway through the book, and the first thing I did was like look up the author to see if he was a Republican. Because it was like this book feels like conservative propaganda. And so let's get into the plot, right? So
yeah.
post-apocalyptic world, there's orchids. I'll complain about that later. There's uh the Uglyville and the Prettyville, right?
Yeah, Uglyville is brutalist, Prettyville is CGI'd. Um we get introduced to a group of 15-year-olds who are all played by various actors between the ages of 25 and 35 it seems like. Um
Uh-huh.
some of them have
Literally.
actively already have crow's feet at 15.
Hmm.
Uglyville
These people
must
are
be
older than us.
brutal.
I was
Yeah.
gagged when I saw that the actor playing Paris is like multiple years older than us, and he is playing a 15-year-old.
It's not even close to being convincing. Not even
It's
they're not even
wild.
trying. First of all, I'm gonna say this. I don't know the actor's name, the lead actor. She can't she can't act her way out of a cardboard box. She sounds so awful in every
Oh
scene.
God.
She seems terrible. Am I wrong?
I mean,
She's
I
awful.
guess I didn't hate her as much as you
I
do.
mean, I couldn't understand how she got the lead role in a movie. I know it's a Netflix movie, but still.
Well,
Like,
she's a very experienced actor. She's been in like a ton of shit. I think
has she
she's in The
been in anything
Conjuring.
good?
She's in The Conjuring. I think she was like a child actor who kind of just like worked her way into being a teen type of actor, even though she's fully 25 now.
Yeah. Child
But
actor at 25.
yeah, I mean, it happens to a lot of people, honestly. Um, so okay, so she's the whole setup of the initial like inciting incident of the movie is that Tally Youngblood, I think is her name, and her best friend Paris are going to be best friends forever, except Paris is 3 months older than Tally. So Paris, at the first day of the movie starting, is going to Prettyville to have his operation. And Tally's getting left behind for 3 months to be alone and sad and ugly.
Yeah, as she
Uh,
deserves.
and they have this little like once a month they have like a little convention where everybody comes together, and then the new pretties get to stand up and they walk up to a hologram of Laverne Cox.
Oh,
Truly
listen, we first got our
the
first
saving grace
appearance
of
of
this
Dr.
film.
Cable, who is played by Laverne Cox, and she is serving. She is
Yeah.
eating up this movie, to be
Uh,
honest.
it's I was
Um,
gonna say I would recommend this movie just to see
just
Laverne
watch
Cox
the
in this
Laverne
movie.
Cox scenes.
That's why we watched this movie. Honestly.
If Laverne
I
Cox was not in this
expected this to be
movie,
good.
I would not be watching it.
No, it also I think the movie would have been unwatchable without
It
her
would have been
presence because
terrible without Laverne
she's
Cox.
chewing up the scenery. She is a Disney villain in person. It's
Oh,
so iconic. I don't I mean, she's literally giving Dr. Frankenfurter, but like somehow more evil and cunty.
yeah, because like I think it is like really interesting how she literally played Dr. Frankenfurter in the like FX Rocky Horror
Mhm, which
Picture
I still have
Show.
not seen.
We should try to find a way to watch it. Um,
Yeah,
but she went from playing Dr. Frankenfurter to playing like futuristic Dr. Frankenfurter.
literally,
And
yeah.
she's so much fun. I love her in this movie.
Mhm.
She's like the highlight by far. Um,
Definitely, yeah.
but they say that they want to her friend, the 35-year-old or whatever, however old he is.
Her
Um,
35-year-old boyfriend, maybe?
he's going to become pretty now because he's turning 16, and so they make a promise that like in 1 month they're gonna meet back at the bridge, which is where they like hang out, and they're gonna like check in with each other to be like, how's it
Yes.
going? Um,
Mhm.
and then my God, I wrote they are flying through exposition at a breakneck pace. How is this movie so long?
Sort of like hasn't even
Because we
begun
got
yet.
more exposition after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is when she goes to a month passes and what's his face? Paris is ignoring her text
Ignoring her
message
text
things.
messages, dodging all her texts.
Yeah. And so like a normal person's response, she decides to break out of her room in the middle of the night and go to Pretty
Yeah,
Island.
she hacks her computer security system with her ring. She just twists her ring around, and apparently it's like a weird like she like twists her ring to make the computer say different words.
Yeah.
It's such a weird version of hacking because she just goes
I
like she just twists around a ring and then it opens the window and she escapes and she goes to Prettyville.
mhm.
Well, she goes to the bridge and he doesn't show up like he's
Mhm.
supposed to, and so the music's so fucking intense.
Yeah, it is.
It's like
Forgot
this
about that.
weird, like super intense music for no reason. It should be sneaky music, but instead it's like
No, it's
super loud
epic
action
Marvel
music.
movie. I swear, we're still feeling the effects of Marvel destroying cinema.
Yeah. Um.
So she breaks in, she finds a pig mask, she puts on the pig mask to hide her ugly
Yeah,
face.
to hide her ugly pig face. She dresses up as a pig.
Yeah, and everybody's like, ew, pig girl, which I'm like, why was the pig mask there if it wasn't like a normal thing for the pretty people to wear as like a mask?
I don't know, but it gives her face jewels and makeup for some
Right.
reason. But she goes to find her friend, Paris, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah.
and she finds him at some party, and now he
Mhm.
looks like if uh Ken, like from Barbie, if like Ken, Life in the Dream House, fucked Ollie London and had a baby. That's his idealized version of himself. Except um, for some reason, he didn't want to fix his cracked lips.
Yeah, no, lips were
That was
totally normal,
strange.
regular human person lips, but
He'll
then
fix
like
his meaningful scar that he got, that they had matching scars. He erased the scar that he said he wasn't going to erase, but he didn't fix his
mhm.
cracked lips.
And also like so much cheek filler. Like it
Oh
was
my
his look
god.
was basically entirely cheek filler. That was kind of it. There was not a lot of lip filler. I don't know if
No.
there was any at all actually. It was
Um
he
yeah.
still looked good. Like I mean, he didn't look like
Yeah, he was so
weird.
pretty.
It was basically like their idea of making people pretty was like giving them like a
LA
lot of filler.
makeovers.
Yeah, it's just yeah, exactly. And honestly, not even that much like compared to like what people actually do modern day with like the way they pump their lips up, they didn't even go that far. I was kind of
I
shocked.
expected more extreme prettiness. Like, I don't
I
know.
expected a completely different actor to be playing
Same.
the
I expected
role
a
of the pretty
completely different
version.
face.
Like I really wanted some hobgoblin looking ass people in Uglyville that are then played by gorgeous supermodels in Prettyville. Not gorgeous supermodels in Prettyville playing themselves with makeup on in
With a
sorry, in
filter.
Uglyville.
With
Yeah,
a
it's
gold
like
glamour
they
filter.
started as like hotter than the average person and then they just put makeup on and that was the
Yeah.
transformation. So no real interesting transformations happened at all for anyone.
And then the hideous freak alarm goes off, I wrote. The hideous freak alarm
I
goes
mean,
off because Tally is spotted, and
mhm.
so she has to make her run for it. And so
Yeah.
she's crashing through the Prettyville and goes to the roof, and she gets this will be kind of important later, I guess. The bungee jacket in case of
Yes.
emergencies. You put on,
Mhm.
I guess it's like it's but the like the idea of it, I guess, is like it works off of electromagnetism
Yeah.
because they're on
So
the
in the book,
their whole city's like on a grid of like metal and magnets. So like when you jump off, the magnets in the vest make it so that you don't splat. You just slows your
yeah.
fall and you bounce.
In the book, the bungee jacket scene actually happens later with what's her face? The other her lesbian lover.
Yeah,
They like do pranks using the bungee jacket, but I guess they just decided to cut that for time, even though they kept everything else
they
in.
kept everything else and then
I guess
included new stuff.
3 lovers was too many for the movie. I really don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, she's escaping the freak alarm, and her lesbian friend picks her up on a hoverboard, and they have an
Well,
awful
I don't think they
CGI
know each
flight.
other.
Oh no, they don't really know each other yet. They like know each other in passing.
Yeah, it's like somebody you like you have a class with, but you don't really like talk
Yeah, they're
to.
just
Is
like
the kind of vibe.
acquaintances.
Yeah.
Um Oh, I forgot. I wrote this quote earlier about their stupid hand scars. I wrote the fault in our scars. I thought that was funny.
I mean, it's stupid, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
So
So,
anyways, they bond and they have a food montage for some reason where they break into the
mhm,
kitchen and
yeah.
eat food in a
Did it
montage
matter?
really quick.
Did it matter?
No, it was
There's a lot of
random.
things in this movie that kind of like amount to nothing.
Where it's like we could have cut that out and we could have maybe lightened the pace a bit in other places to make it not feel
Yeah, we
so
didn't need like a
ridiculous.
montage every 5 minutes. So, okay. Lesbian montage, and then oh, they start to do this is when we start to get the hoverboard
Oh, the
action
hoverboarding
sequences
tutorials.
where it
Yeah.
literally looks like a fucking old maiden type of
It
CGI
looks
like
like
Tony
Tony
Hawk
Hawk's
video
Pro
game.
Skater PS2.
Literally. Like the CGI in this movie for the amount that they used, it's like it's the same problem we had with cats. It's like if you're gonna make CGI your whole thing, like please at least make it look good. Like I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with movies using CGI. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it at all. But like either make it look good or like I don't know, maybe use some practical effects. Maybe actually have some
I
body
think part
doubles
of the
on
problem
skateboards.
is
Like
that back in the day, CGI was more of an art. Like it was used
yeah.
less often, it was more expensive. And so the people who made the CGI effects really cared about what they were doing. Because like people will bring up
Mhm.
examples of like, look at Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean and his like tentacle like octopus face and beard look amazing still. And I'm like, yeah, because those people probably cared. and they were
Yeah,
putting
yeah,
in
and like
love
Game
and
of Thrones with the
detail.
dragons. The dragons in
Yeah.
Game of Thrones were like
These
iconic.
days, they want so much CGI and everything, and there's so many studios, and they're just like, I don't care what I want the cheapest CGI I can get for this. Can you do it quick?
Yeah.
And so you get
I
slapdash
would bet
fucking
money there's a lot of like
hoverboards.
AI like stuff going on in this movie too.
I
There was
wouldn't
a
bet
lot of
anything
stuff where I was
about
like, that's probably AI
it.
generated
Like all of
things
Prettyville.
happening. Oh yeah, for sure. A lot of the Prettyville stuff, the anytime they used like a beauty filter, I was like, this is all just like AI generated CGI nonsense.
uh,
So
oh, this is kind of important in a way. Uh, Tally sees like the first book ever that she's ever seen
right.
because they like were smuggling a book.
She's never seen a book before, which to me, this is something they don't really address. I don't remember this being a thing in the book. I don't remember them having like a book ban, but it's like, okay, so if there's no books, then how do they learn shit? Is it just they only
It's all on
learn what's programmed
screens.
into the screens?
Yeah,
Can
like
they read?
their classroom
They must
has
be able to
screens.
read.
They never do they ever read in this
I mean, Tally
movie?
allegedly read this book in like a
Yeah,
week, so
true. I
she
guess
must be
they
able to
are
read.
literate. I mean, like, why do you need to be literate when you're going to be pretty? I don't understand that part. Why do
I
they even
truly
need an
don't
education
know.
if you're just going to be pretty?
Well, okay, so if we're gonna break down like the actual world of the book, at least from what I gathered, there's the pretties, but then there's the specials, and the specials actually have like jobs and shit. So the
Yeah,
pretties are essentially just like dumb, like people who party all day,
yeah,
and they don't really have a lot of thoughts, and they're just
yeah,
pretty. But the
yeah.
specials are a little bit more severe looking, and they have actual jobs, including things like being a surgeon
But
or a
it's like the
doctor or
government,
whatever.
the medical workers, the like
Exactly, yeah.
military.
I don't remember what the extras were. I don't know. I don't know if that was a
Extras isn't
thing.
until a long time. It's a
Okay.
completely separate thing. It's way in the
Oh, okay,
future.
got
It's
it.
way in the future.
Okay, great.
Um,
So they don't talk about the specials at all in this. So yeah, there's really just the pretties and the uglies in this first movie.
yeah.
I mean they are allegedly here. I mean, Dr. Cable is supposed to be a special, and the henchmen that follow her around are supposed to be specials. They just never address that or talk about it in the
Yeah, they
movie at
don't
all.
name them specials in this one. Maybe they're saving that. Or maybe they mentioned it in one of the seas of exposition that flew by way too
That's true. We
quickly.
could have just
It could
missed
they
it
could
in
have
like a
talked about
fucking
it.
in a
Um,
brief moment when we looked away. So, okay, so they go hoverboarding a lot. It's really stupid looking
yeah, they're
and
establishing the friendship between her and her lesbian friend.
mhm,
And they do some. Well, Tally's considered a badass now for breaking into Prettyville. Apparently, um,
right.
they do some insane laughter. Uh, and I don't remember when this happened, but I did have it written down that somebody said, "Oh my god," like that almost. Like it sounded ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
then I wrote down the hoverboarding looks so awful because they keep
Yeah.
doing more and more hoverboarding. They're obsessed with
Let's
it.
get into the let's try to get into the actual plot of the movie because truly nothing important has happened
No,
yet.
nothing has
So
happened.
yeah, it's
Nothing.
like this movie feels
Nothing.
so long.
So much so many
So
scenes have happened, but nothing has happened of
okay,
substance.
so basically, her lesbian friend, what is her name? Shay.
Shay.
Shay introduces Tally to the idea of the smoke. Tally goes, "The smoke isn't real." And then Shay's like, "No, it is real. And I'm going to go be there because David's going to come pick me up. And I want you to come with
Dive
me."
odd.
And then Tally says, I don't want to be free. I want to be pretty.
Yeah, that's where I got my
Yeah.
great line.
Uh-huh. And
Um
then so Tally, so they travel into the Rust together, which is like the old maiden type of like broken down New York City looking shit. And I mean, it's probably not New York City, but it's some American city that's fallen into rust. And at this point, Shay goes off into the distance, hoverboards
yeah,
away to be,
they have their little wicked moment where
they,
she goes like, "Come with
something
me.
has
Think of
changed
what we
within
could do
me.
together."
Literally, that's exactly what's happening, even though they've known each other for like a month. Um, so before Shay goes, she gives Tally a like like a riddle, like a handwritten
Yeah.
riddle, in case Tally ever wants to follow them
Well, she says,
and
this
go to
is
the
a
smoke.
puzzle only you could solve, or something. This is a riddle only you can
It's
solve.
literally like entry level escape
It's
room
she's not
puzzle,
very
but okay.
smart. But Tally goes, no, I want to be pretty and won't go with her, and so she goes back to Uglyville.
Hmm.
And but it's time. It's time for her to get her surgery. It's surgery day. It's procedure
Yeah, her moment
day.
has come.
They load up and they go over to Prettyville to get their surgeries, to get their procedures. But Tally, oh, first of all, we get the Gia Gunn nurse. I thought she literally, I thought this nurse was Gia Gunn until we saw her
I
face.
wanted her to be Gia
I
Gunn.
wish this nurse,
She
because
was so pretty
she was
though.
very pretty, but I still think if it was Gia Gunn and she was like, she was like coming out and getting them, I think Gia Gunn would be a perfect casting decision.
Oh yeah, she would have
The
walked in
lack
and
of
been like, "I am
drag,
the Gigi Gunn."
yeah, the lack of drag in Prettyville is upsetting.
Hmm.
But yeah, Gia Gunn
I
nurse,
agree.
and then Tally gets pulled aside and she has to fly over to the government building, I guess.
So she has to go to like the special land, which is
Special
like a
land.
completely different. It's a completely
Yeah.
different like
It's
section.
like the
That's why.
government building.
Yeah, that's why Laverne Cox like holograms in every month to do the pretty
She can't
inauguration
stand to
thing.
see the uglies in person.
Yeah.
She cannot stand
I
the
mean,
sight of
listen, I
them.
would be making that a video call too. Sorry. I would be like, I can't be
She
there.
said, I'll give you a
Sorry.
Zoom call.
A bunch of ugly 15-year-olds.
Ugh.
Also, I love that they're like 15, but then when they turn 16, they just party all the time, it seems like.
Yeah.
So she gets flown to the Specialville. She's the only person there that doesn't seem to be getting her surgery yet. And that's when she meets Dr. Cable in person
Oh,
for the first time. Laverne Cox is so fucking beautiful, and she
she's
looks
so
so good
beautiful.
in this movie.
Her
And
she
they give her like a different costume every
she
single
gets a
scene.
new
It's
costume
so
every
good.
time, and each one is so good.
They're
She
great.
looks
It's
so
like
slay and so cunty.
she is literally coming for RuPaul's gig. Like she is trying to steal his job.
But like the only downside to any of her outfits are her heels. Her shoes are terrible.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I don't know why. I don't know why. But she just wears these ugly white pumps with like they're like 3-inch heels. And they just look so bad. Like she has such a cunty outfit and then
Yeah.
3-inch pumps. And I'm like,
It felt to me, so as a costume designer, if I was working on this film, if I didn't think they were going to show her feet a lot, I that's the kind of shoe I would have put her in. If I knew that we were going to see her full body head to toe as much as we did, I would not have put her in those shoes. It's very possible Laverne Cox has some sort of foot
oh, true,
situation or
true.
whatever. Sometimes
Well,
that
then
is a
CGI
thing,
her feet
especially
into still like
feature her feet
6-inch
or something.
stilettos. If they're gonna CGI everything else, why
I would
not?
fucking scream if they had given her CGI feet, especially with the caliber of CGI they were using in
I'm
this
just saying
movie.
if they're just
She
throwing
would have like
CGI at
fucking
everything,
Roblox feet.
just
She
give
looked like a
her
fucking like
CGI
she's playing
feet.
dress to impress. Okay. Anyway, she looks great. And this is really where we start to get the sinister undertone of Dr. Cable's character.
You mean where
Um,
she just straight up is evil to her face? She's
yeah,
like,
she becomes a full Disney
she's
villain,
like,
like right away.
Tally, I know that you know where Shay went. How's my Laverne Cox impression?
It's not bad.
She's like, we need you to go to the smoke. We need you to infiltrate because Shay's in danger. We need you to take this special necklace. It's Cartier. And we need
Okay,
you
so
to.
now do it. Hold on. Do it British now.
Oh no, I can't do that. I don't think I can do that. I don't think that's possible for me. I do not have the range.
Please.
But anyway, she recruits Tally to be like, you're not going to get your surgery unless you go and infiltrate the smoke so that we can find them because
Mhm.
David's evil. David's
Yeah.
evil. He's
David's
brainwashing
evil. He's manipulating
everyone.
people. Yeah, he's dangerous. Whatever. He's stealing
Yeah.
children. It's
Well,
literally she is pizza gating him. Her.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what's
So,
happening. Okay, great.
so yeah, she's given a necklace and she's told like it's a tracker, and then when she's gotten to the smoke, she just has to like like flashes her face or something, and then like it'll
Uh,
send out a signal and they can come and save everyone. Um,
yeah, something like that.
so that's when Tally, because she wants to be pretty, understandably, uh, goes and follows Shay's instructions on some Goonies ass little like adventure really quick.
Yeah, it's really like it's just like I don't know. It's supposed to be like a fun little riddle adventure, but it's really not that interesting. She takes her hoverboard into the
They
woods.
play some really royalty free inspirational music while she's camping in the woods on her way
Yeah,
trekking
eating her
to the
spag
smoke.
bol.
I was upset that they never talked about Spag Bowl.
That's talked about a lot in the
In the
book because in the
book,
book
one of
she
my
has to barter with it.
one of my core memories from Uglies was how many times they said fucking Spag Bowl.
Yeah, it's
And
often.
they don't
Um,
say it out loud a single time in this
it's a
movie.
really important distinction between Prettyville and Uglyville. In Uglyville, or sorry, not no, sorry, in Prettyville and Uglyville. It's so this is like a socialist economy.
Yeah.
There's like full universal healthcare, universal income. Nobody seems to really have a job. Like you just kind of get to be pretty and like live your life. If you want
Yeah.
to get a job
It's
or if you
Laverne
qualify,
Cox's socialist paradise, and I want to live in it.
literally. And but then when you go out into the world towards the smoke, it's everybody's ugly, everybody's sleeping on the ground, it's dirty. They're kind of environmental terrorists,
Yeah.
and they barter a lot with the food because they have limited resources. So it's like at this point you're really once we get into that part in the book, it's like, why does anyone want to go to the smoke? It's so perplexing. Now, obviously, we'll
Mhm.
get into the negatives of Laverne Cox's Socialist Paradise, but
Negatives.
um, but we'll get into those in a minute. So she does her little traveling montage. She almost dies like 3 times. It truly
Mhm.
feels like when she finally gets there. I remember there's a line where Shay says there was like a 7% chance of you finding me, which implies there was a 93% chance that Tally was just gonna die.
Yeah, that she was sending Tally on a death mission
So like so
knowingly.
like what the fuck, Shay? So she gets to the field of
The
orchids,
sea of orchids, the sea of
the sea of
white
orchids,
orchids.
and I have to stay just on a nerd moment here for a second. As somebody who has a lot of knowledge about orchids, a lot of I have a lot of orchids that I
Do
care
you want to
for
get
and that
one
I
for the camera right
love.
now?
I don't have any of that kind that are blooming, but the orchid they're using is like a standard white Phalaenopsis orchid, which is not the orchid in the book. In the book, it's a Phragmipedium, which is a much cooler looking orchid. And also, it's a type of orchid that doesn't really exist in reality. So I literally think as like a production team, they were like, well, it's an orchid, so we'll just get like one of the shitty random white ones from a grocery store, even though I do think that there's a lot more nuance to it being a Phragmipedium because those types of slipper orchids actually can be invasive. I've never heard of an invasive Phalaenopsis orchid. They're actually really hard to grow in a lot of circumstances. So it was kind of like a weird design choice. It annoyed me as somebody that cares about orchids. I'm sure most people didn't give a fuck. But I do think even for the average person, seeing a field full of invasive like grocery store orchids looks fucking weird because those plants are notoriously difficult to grow and they will not just grow in your yard. Like you have to give them very specific conditions, and they're also epiphytic, which means they typically grow on the side of trees and shit, not in dirt. But anyway, I digress. The orchids in the book were more accurate to what might have actually been possible.
Hmm.
Anyway, in the movie, it stated these orchids are grown as a source of renewable energy. That's what is told to the people
Yeah.
in Uglyville. And that's how they replaced fossil fuels was by growing these invasive orchids. It's never explained like how the fuck they turn orchids into like electricity. But I guess
They
they
found a
just don't want us
way.
to think that deeply about it. But it is important to note that because we get a different story from the Smokies or whatever the fuck they're called, because when Tally falls asleep and wakes up, she wakes up in a field of burning orchids because
Yeah.
the Smoky people are literally lighting the orchids on fire and doing controlled burns of them, and they almost literally burn her to death. Which, by the way, Shay would have known that these people were going to come and light these orchids on fire, and she literally told her to wait there for the smoke. So she literally said, "Wait in this field until somebody lights you on fire."
Yeah. Great friends. I don't remember how we see another Dr. Cable sighting, but I wrote another Dr. Cable serve.
It's a flashback.
Oh, it's the
Because
flashback.
I think the editors realized in the montage of just Tally doing bad CGI activities that we were really lacking in the Laverne Cox department. So they put a completely unnecessary flashback of Dr. Cable and Tally having a fairly meaningless conversation.
Yeah, but she was wearing a different outfit in this one. It was like a really slay dress, I think.
Yeah, she was wearing a different outfit, which was also confusing.
I don't know. I just made sure I noted that there was another Dr. Cable slay, like servant here.
Yeah.
Which is important. So
I agree.
she gets picked up by the
Smokies.
helicopter.
Are they called the Smokies?
They're called Rusties.
No, the Rusties are the extinct people. That's us. We're the Rusties.
Wait, I thought they were referred to those Smokies as Rusties. Anyways, Smokies, whatever. Smoky Bears got them.
Yeah, the Smoky Bears.
Uh,
Speaking of bears, though, there's not a single bear in this movie. Even the Uglies are fucking ripped, abs, muscles, literally like on testosterone. Like these people are fucking supermodels, regardless of whether or not they get the surgery. It makes no sense. The casting is crazy.
Yeah, so she meets the Smokies, including David and others. And they're using because this is Netflix, I can tell they're using the same lens that they used in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, because they used that lens everywhere in that show. Now that we're in Smokyville, they love using that lens.
They gotta get their money's worth.
It's like they love it. Which actually I liked it in Sabrina because it really worked for that show, but it's just like it's such a glaring effect in this movie.
I truly do not have the technological knowledge to be able to identify what camera lenses are being used, I fear. But anyways, I'm glad you noticed it.
She starts they're like journeying kind of back to the smoke community.
Yes.
And people are distrustful of Tally, and
rightfully so, because from day one she's acting sus as fuck. She is so suspicious constantly.
Wait, weren't the Tron men in the wildfire with them?
Yeah. No, I think that came later.
Oh, is that later? Oh, it is later. Yeah, never mind. Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself because
so when they first pick up Tally, they destroy her hoverboard because of the track. There's a tracker on it.
Well, they don't destroy the hoverboard. They destroy
the tracker.
The tracker, yeah.
Yeah, which is important though because it implies that the Dr. Cable at least knows that Tally has gone that far. Yeah. Which is why we do see people later. But so anyway, they get back to the town and we kind of get a sense of their everyday life. It seems shitty.
Yeah, it seems like crap.
In the dirt and tents.
Sleeping in the dirt.
It's literally camping.
They go on this rickety helicopter to go burn the orchids all the time.
Yeah, that's like their main chore. And they keep saying it's because the orchids are they're like a plague on the earth and they're like destroying everything, but it just doesn't really make like a ton of sense from a reality standpoint. Because why? Like how is that the problem? Because like I mean, even I get invasive species are definitely like a danger to an ecosystem, but like there should still be like animals that eat and graze on the orchids. Like orchids are completely edible. I think in this world they said the orchids were like poisonous or something, which is I don't think there's a single known orchid that is not edible. At least don't quote me on that. Don't just go eating every
orchid right now.
I do think most orchids are. I mean, I have eaten many orchid flowers just to see it. They taste like shit, but they're mostly edible. So I don't know. It was a weird choice.
I wrote that the life expectancy doesn't seem very long in the smoke because we we only get introduced to one set of older people. Everyone else seems to be like very 20. Young.
I mean, the actors are like 30, but like the character,
they're supposed
like David's supposed to be like 18.
Yeah,
and he's like seems to be like the de facto like leader of the smoke.
Yeah, which
he's
is weird.
Literally 18 years old.
So
there's also another hot guy that I cannot remember his name. Nope. It's unclear if he's really that important. I don't remember him being in the book at all. So,
No idea. Um,
random hot guy
we get a
who's
bunch
really
of really random rapid fire scenes back to back to back to back to back of her doing stuff like they're. This is one thing I was confused by. They're like, we tear up these old railroad tracks that seem to be perfectly intact to use the metal to build other things, but they don't really seem to build a lot of permanent structures because they want to be
oh.
hidden. But
There's
I'm
literally
like,
like one house, and it's where David's
there's like a
parents live.
couple of them, but like, there's not many. But then like, it doesn't seem like they need metal for that either. I just wonder why they don't use the tracks. Like, why don't they
I
build a cart and use the tracks? I
or
don't
even
know.
just use their hoverboards to travel across the tracks, because
Keep
in theory the tracks would lead from city to
keep the
city,
tracks.
so there'd be
Use
more
them. I
resources.
don't know. So they're like tearing them up, and that's supposedly really fun to Tally. Tearing up railroad tracks. She's like, this is amazing. She was
Now,
really
I
into
correct me
it.
if I'm wrong. I thought in the book there were like other cities. Like I thought when she came to the smoke, she realized that like some of these people were actually from other cities.
I don't
Am I
remember.
wrong about that?
I
I
have
think that
no
was a
clue.
thing. Because like in this sort of world expansion, she realizes that it's like what she thought was the entire world is just one city essentially, or country or whatever. But in actuality, there's a whole world out there, and there's these massive landscapes of like deserted wasteland in between that's covered in orchids and nature and shit. But like, which like honestly, when you leave the city limits, it's not like really inhospitable or anything for
No.
like a dystopian future. So there's no real reason people can't just move outside of the city and like build a house right outside of the city, but for some reason they just don't.
But yeah, anyways, um her friend Shay really wants her to make a choice to stay or leave, or else I guess maybe she's threatening to tell the truth about Tally or something.
It's because David gives Shay a
Gives
pair of,
yeah.
or no,
A,
he
a
gives
token
Tally a
of
pair of gloves.
affection.
Yeah, and Tally gets, or Shay gets really like jealous about this. It's clear that Shay kind of has a crush on Tally, and she basically tells Tally like, "This is your moment. You have to decide whether to live or die." She becomes Jigsaw. No, she tells Tally, "You have to decide whether or not you're going to stay or leave because you're playing with David's emotions." But really, it's you can tell that Shay is actually kind of upset about this because of her own
Yeah.
emotions. So, um,
But anyways,
that night, Tally don't they like go on a date or something? She like goes on a date with David and they like kiss.
something like that. I don't know. I remember
There's
he
a
was
lot of
like,
like forced relationship vibes.
yeah, I was really tuning out in this part of the movie because it was just a bunch of random scenes in the smoke
Yeah,
and it was
Laverne Cox wasn't there for
very
the
boring.
longest portion of the movie.
Yeah, because then she goes to meet David's parents, who are like the only old people in the smoke that you see.
Hmm.
And they live out in the outskirts of the outskirts. And oh my god, that's where the books came from. The books
Right,
came
and this
from
is
his
also
dad.
so the parents are
Yeah,
doctors
they were
that are from
doctors.
Prettyville,
Oh, and
and
this is when we get the truth about the
mhm,
pretties. Oh my
yeah,
god, the hard
the deep dark
truth.
secrets about
Which,
the
by the way, this is
pretties.
also where we learn that they did, in fact, solve discrimination and racism and all
Yes.
forms of bigotry through the pretty surgery.
Yeah.
And that's bad, apparently.
Yeah, apparently that's really rough. They're really upset that no longer is anyone in Prettyville racist or like homophobic, or there's literally no discrimination. They've
Yeah.
solved all discrimination. They live in a truly peaceful society where
Yeah.
everybody's happy and everybody has universal health care and everybody has universal income and nobody really has to worry about any actual problems. And that's really bad.
Well, the reason it's so bad is they reveal that the pretties are given brain lesions to make them happy and not
Right.
racist.
And trust
Um,
and believe. If I went to the doctor and they said, I can give you brain lesions and it will make your depression go away, I would sign up
yes,
immediately.
if I went to the
Like,
doctor and they said,
what?
we have a radical new procedure where you can pick out your exact face that you want to look like, you can be as pretty as you want, A. B, you will get rid of your anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. I do, and they said, well, you're also just going to be a little dumb. Do you think for a second I would
Taken.
hesitate?
Gladly will
No,
take
give
that.
me the brain lesions. But they present it
I'm
like this is
fine with being dumb.
like boom, mind explosion, like, oh my god, this is terrible. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
If I
and it's
want
like,
to be a doctor, they'll take the brain lesions away and I can be smart and I can be a doctor and pretty. But
yeah, but like, let's be real. So, like, it's implied that the only people who get the opportunity to be the specials and the doctors and all that shit are people who have the capacity. And let's be real, a lot of people don't have the fucking
I
capacity.
don't have the
You think
capacity.
fucking,
I don't want to be a
I
fucking
don't
doctor.
either. It's like,
Give me the brain lesions.
I'm not fucking shooting for the moon here. I'm like, I'm happy to get through my day. And if you could take away all of my mental illness and make me hot, why the fuck is that bad? Like, somebody please tell me, what is the problem here?
I don't get it. But anyways,
I don't.
Tally
Yeah.
gets it apparently, and she decides to burn her necklace. That is the tracker
Ooh.
thing, and because she's like, I'm gonna be a Smoky. I'm gonna be a dirty, dirty little Smoky girl, and
And
be a pig forever.
the, the timeline's getting really confused here, but I think she's been in Smoky Land for maybe a week to a month max, and
It's
she's
hard to
already falling in
tell.
love with David now. So she's building a lot of really strong relationships really fast. And this is why you shouldn't be making life altering decisions when you're 16 years old, because trust
Yeah,
and believe she's not going to remember or care about any of these people in like 3 years. But sure.
yeah. So she burned the necklace, and she's like, "Mhm, I made my decision," and they go to bed. But guess what happens the next day? The
Am I
pretties
supposed to? I know what
attack.
happens.
The pretties attack.
Wanted me to
Um,
guess.
so now it really is a Marvel movie, and
Yeah.
the special soldiers are coming through, and they're just beating everybody up. They're throwing
Mhm.
them into trees. It's really not a fair fight. Um,
No, and at this point, it's been also revealed that like there's sort of like special super soldiers that Laverne Cox makes. She kind of can take people and
yeah,
turn them
and
into
she
like
a big point is one of the special soldiers is in fact Paris.
parrots.
Yeah,
Now, this I don't think was in the original book. I could be wrong about that, but my impression of the original book was that Paris was a pretty, not a special. So he didn't have any like
I think so.
superhuman strength or anything. I don't remember
I think
that
this
from the
is
book.
just
I
a
could be
foil
wrong.
for movie drama.
I agree. I think they were just trying to play up like this weird love
Yeah.
quadrangle. Because I do think that there's a lot of lesbian vibes between Shay and Tally as well. So
Hmm.
it's hard to say like how many love interests is she going to have as the series continues. I'm not sure. Um. So this is when like they sort of shake down the town
Which once
and
again, Dr. Cable is there and she is serving. She
yeah,
is
Dr.
serving and
Cable
she is
can't show up
slaying.
for the once a month ugly meeting, but she will physically fly her ass out to a dirty little town in the middle of nowhere to
Just so she
destroy their
can
lives.
strut in the middle of their dirty little town and be like, you could be like me, but you're not. She's like literally just like
Literally.
showing off. She looks so good.
Yeah, it's great. She's
And she's
so it's
also
full.
she's also pro-choice. She explains that she's pro-choice. She wants people to be able to choose to be pretty and
So
slay.
this is actually a good point, by the way, because so in another thing I want to mention that is talked about is that you don't have to have the surgery. You can stay ugly forever and live in Uglyville forever. It's an option. If you
It's
want to be
an option.
ugly, you can be ugly and they don't give you the brain lesions and you just stay ugly and you age normally. I think it would probably be weird because I think most of your neighbors are like 12 years old, but it's implied that there are some people who the surgery doesn't take. Like in the book they talk about this. Like that's like a big horror for like it's you could just be the
Hmm.
unlucky one where like for some reason the surgeries don't work on you and you just have to stay ugly forever and you live in Uglyville as like a weird shunned like monstrosity. But like you can live that life if you want to. That is an
Yeah.
option. You don't have to fucking flee the city to do that.
So they round up all the Smokies. They're not killing them. They are um shipping them back. And we get another one of my favorite lines in the movie, which comes from Dr. Cable, and she says, and I quote, in fact, All your procedures have been scheduled.
Yes. And something really important happens here that did not happen in the book. And this is probably one of the, I think they added this to actually make Dr. Cable more sinister. She basically orders Paris to walk over and snap David's father's neck
Yeah.
for no reason
Yeah.
whatsoever.
He's the only one that
There's
gets killed.
literally
They
no
just
reason.
killed David's dad just to be like, we need to give them a
Yeah,
reason to be mad.
because like in theory everybody's being rounded up and taken back and given the brain lesion, so regardless of them
And the pretty
defecting
surgery.
and the pre-surgery, yeah,
They're not
so
just giving them brain lesions, they're making them
despite the
pretty.
fact that they're all defecting, they don't have to kill any of them because they can just
No.
use surgery to make them compliant,
Yeah.
which they're going to do to everyone except for David's dad,
Except for
who she
David's
just
dad.
had killed in cold blood by a mindless super soldier for literally no reason. So that
So we
happens.
wrote
She
the
doesn't
future
kill David's
liberals
mom, even though
want trans surgery gone amok, and she doesn't take Tally though.
no, well, because this was the agreement. But this is an important scene because Tally says, "You didn't tell me anybody was going to get hurt," and this is when
Yeah.
Tally, being the idiot she is, reveals that she was the mole all
Yeah,
along. In front
she
of
just
the
straight up goes,
entire
I
town.
betrayed everyone. Oopsies.
Yeah. Which, by the way, does that matter later? Not really, despite the fact that she literally got David's father killed. He seems to forgive her pretty quickly.
Yeah, he moves
and nobody
on.
cares. So, sure, whatever. They team up because I think David gets away, and I think he has like the serum or something, right?
Yeah,
Because there's this whole
so
plot where they found a cure for the brain lesions, but
they were
still
missing
need,
one synthetic ingredient, which was important because it was
yeah,
in
that they
the
have to get
lab.
from Prettyville or from Specialville or whatever the fuck
Yeah.
Whoville they're going to.
I wrote this quote, and
You know who should have been in this movie? Complete side note: Christine Baranski. Speaking of
oh
Whoville,
my
he should have been
god.
in this movie. Christine Baranski would have been perfect for like any like special type of character.
Um so I did
Okay.
write that I was scared that conservatives were going to be using clips of this movie as propaganda.
Well, like that's the thing about this movie is that it's like as you're watching it and you're using your brain that understands the American political like landscape, the things that are so basically it feels
The Uglies
like
is a Daily Wire production.
literally like this is like Donald Trump's propaganda of like the America liberals want, where everybody gets trans surgeries and there's socialism and everybody has universal health care, and those things are all inherently bad, even though it seems like everybody's happy and fine and living their lives except for these freaks that like run off to the forest and get mad about everything while everybody else is happy in town. Like literally Prettyville has no problems. So like they've solved all political problems at the cost of just making society a little bit more compliant by making them like a little like less racist, less hateful, nicer, I guess. I don't know, like
Yeah,
dumber
pleasant.
for sure.
Yeah.
But like, let's be real. Are the Smokies that fucking smart? Like, are these fucking
No.
rocket scientists we're working with in
It
the
looks
woods?
like a
no,
shit life.
it looks like a Trump rally, but everybody's cast as a supermodel. That's what's happening here.
It's giving homesteading, and I don't like that.
Please.
But I don't even know what this was a quote from. I thought it was important because I wrote, quote, I'm David, end quote. What was that from? It must have been a weird line delivery, and I thought it would
no
stick in my
idea
mind, but it didn't.
what
Like
you're
most
talking
of this
about.
movie. But they decided they're
Yeah.
gonna go back into Prettyville and they're
God.
going to rebel. It's rebellion
Mhm.
time. And
Yeah, for them.
oh yeah. They're like infiltrating the special building,
Mhm.
and it's like this whole sequence. It's a very long sequence. And the only dialogue that gets said at the very end after they use their bungee vest to like dive into the special headquarters is Tally goes, Pretties have a couple of cool things.
Yeah,
And that was it.
that's all. That's yeah. It's a weird sequence, and
But
it's
they
just a callback to the bungee vests.
yeah. But
It's not interesting or impactful.
they break in, and I wrote that they're dressed for a Janet Jackson music video. because they are.
Yeah, they are. Um, I think okay, so they break in, they break the prisoners out. It's a really fast operation. There's not a lot of drama or anticipation of this whatsoever. It goes very smoothly, except for an encounter between or wait, no. What happens? Don't they get gagged by Dr. Cox?
They
No.
get not Dr.
Dr.
Cox.
Cable.
Dr.
Sorry, I mean
Cable.
she is Dr.
It is
Cox.
Dr. Cox, yeah. They break everyone out and they get jump scared by gasified Shay.
Oh yeah.
Gasified Shay is inside
Oh,
of
I totally
like Dr.
forgot.
Cable's like office or something. And she's
Mhm.
so pretty. Her wig
Yeah,
is
she's too big.
nice. She's wearing a
She,
sparkly dress. She looks
yeah,
great.
she's
She
in
looks
full glam
great.
makeup. I wonder in the because I feel like they don't talk about it a ton in the book that I can recall, but the fact that her hair length changed so dramatically, is it supposed to be a wig or did they grow her
I
hair
think they
longer
grow her
through
hair or
using
something. I don't
surgery?
know, but it looks
They
good.
just
It's
implanted
a
the
good
wig permanently
choice.
onto her scalp.
Because you can change your
Full
hair
scalp
color
transplant.
permanently.
Oh, true. And you can change your eyes permanently too. Yeah. So I guess
So
they just
they're
implanted someone else's scalp on her head.
so now Shay is all like fine. She's happy. She's
Yeah, she's
slaying.
thrilled, happy to be
Yeah.
here.
So like her
And
entire mental has changed since getting prettied and lesioned, and she goes, this is one of my other favorite quotes from this movie is I think Dr. Cable goes, I suggest you choose surgery. And then uh and then Pig Girl, what's her name again? Tally goes, but I won't be me. And then Dr. Cable
and
goes,
then they sing
no.
Zydrate comes in a little glass jar.
No, no, no. She says, I suggest you choose surgery, but I won't be me. No, but you sure will be pretty.
Right.
And I thought that was hilarious.
I think this idea that somehow changing your physical appearance is completely aligned with changing your entire individuality and that's a bad thing is really, it's interesting, right? Like, I feel like we have to unpack this a little bit because we have Laverne Cox, who is a literal real life transgender woman who
Hmm.
has obviously had many procedures in her lifetime during her transition, and I would assume all of her gender affirming care she's very happy about and very
Yeah.
satisfied with. Yet she's playing a villain that's basically her entire message is that getting a bunch of surgeries is fucking evil and it's gonna fuck you up, it's gonna change who you are, and you'll never be the same again. And that's a bad thing. Even though most people who get these kinds of surgeries tend to be happier, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
that's just that gender
assuming.
affirming care, despite what the turfs say, actually has an incredibly low dissatisfaction rate. It's
Yeah, I
people do
mean,
not regret their gender affirming care
no,
mostly.
everybody I know who has had any sort of gender
Like
affirming care is
trans
like,
related gender affirming care has like a higher rate of satisfaction and less like regret than like a boob job typically.
right. Yeah, and I've never known a trans person who like didn't like fucking like they save for these surgeries because they're expensive and
Hmm.
they are usually thrilled when it's finally time to actually have them and they are usually very happy. So it's like it feels like I'm watching a movie that is the Trumpism like propaganda
Yeah.
version of
Because like
what
when I'm
having
watching this movie and I'm thinking like a trans kid growing up and being like I can finally turn 16 and get to be who I want to be, and they're
right.
like that's wrong.
Yeah, literally. And it's like it's just and it's like it's not lost on me that like Laverne Cox is like the main villain who's or like transgender like evil doctor villain. Like Disney villain. Like it's so weird to
It's a
me.
choice. It's an active
It's
choice.
I know and I'm just I I'm conflicted because I wouldn't have watched this movie without Laverne Cox here. She's literally like it almost feels like they were writing the script and they put it
They're
together and they realized
gaslighting
like
us.
it feels like they realized like, oh shit, like we wrote a conservative propaganda movie. How do we fix this and like get the libs to watch? Oh, let's cast a famous trans icon as the villain. So it's a win-win because the conservatives will be like, oh yeah, this is about how trans people are evil. And then fucking we get debated into watching this fucking movie that's basically conservative propaganda starring a trans icon. It's weird. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I got tricked. But I also read the book, so like I was expecting maybe they made some changes because the book feels the same way. But no, it's truly that's exactly how the movie feels too.
But anyways, they get put into these surgery machines, um, and they get broken out at the last second by the
Right.
Smokies and their shitty helicopter,
The hot guy who I
and
can't remember his
they
name.
burn Dr. Cable's face. And I was
They
so oh
blast everybody with
first
a
things first.
industrial flamethrower.
First things first. The helicopter comes up in front of the window, and Dr. Cable's standing on the far side of the room looking at it and just goes, "Ugh." Like she seems so annoyed and over it. She's just like,
Yeah.
ugh.
I
And
mean,
then they
Laverne Cox
torch
is
the place.
serving.
She's
Yeah,
serving
they torch.
so
It's literally like,
hard.
oh no, my friends are about to have this procedure done against their will. What should I do? Light them on fire with an industrial flame, like weapons grade flamethrower. It's insane. The fact that like not only did they not die, but they didn't even get injured.
No.
Oh, excuse me. Laverne Cox is the only one who seems to suffer any damage from this event.
Yeah, unfortunately. But they get broken out and they go back to Smokyville and
Well, no, there's a meeting of Paris on the rooftop. Remember?
oh yeah.
So there's this like they have this like little moment where Paris is like a super soldier. It stops Tally on the rooftop and David's on the rooftop too. I don't remember if anyone else is there. It doesn't really matter. They're the three main characters, I guess. And Tally's trying to break through Paris's brain lesions using, I guess, the power of her love.
Yeah.
And Paris starts to caress her face, but David doesn't like the look of
Her
it
ugly
because
fucking face.
her fucking ugly face. David doesn't like the look of it because the last time he watched Paris
Oh.
touch somebody's head, he snapped his father's neck. So David like comes in and like knocks him off the roof or something. And then in the final moments when Tally goes to reach for him, he calls her by her like Uggo name, which is
Nose.
Squinty or something.
Squinty.
No,
He
he's
was
Nose.
nose. She was Squinty.
He's
Because
Squinty,
we didn't
yeah.
cover this at the beginning, but they give each other stupid nicknames based on their insecurities about their physical
Right.
appearance. Anyways,
Insane. Like
does it show that
truly-
he put the scar back on his hand?
No, he didn't put it on. It just like happened. It like he like a piece of broken glass cut his hand. He didn't do
Oh
that
yeah,
intentionally.
something like that. He got his scar back, and that was important, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, she touched him a little bit. They had a moment, and then he falls to his death. Probably not, but it seemed like he probably should
Yeah.
have died, unless he's really that superhuman. Who the fuck knows? It's hard to say. There's not a lot of specifics given as to how strong these superhuman soldiers are.
Yeah, but anyways, they go back to Smokyville, and now Doc Mom finally has the synthetic ingredient that she needed in order to try to find a cure for the brain lesions, but they don't know if it's gonna work. And then Tally goes, "Why don't you just get some unwilling pretty test subjects and round them up from Prettyville?" Because Tally thinks that's ethical, and
Yeah,
that
Tally
was
is,
literally
like-
her suggestion. And then
Yeah, well,
they go,
because at first she said, "Oh, we can cure Shay," and Shay was like, "I don't want to be cured. I'm happy."
yeah,
because she's happy now. She
Yeah,
got the
they
she got
brought
the
Shay
surgery.
with them, and Shay's like, "I don't know what's going on. I want to go back to Prettyville. Y'all are crazy."
It's like I vibe with Shay so much here because it's literally like it feels like if you were like a normal person who like accidentally ended up at a Trump rally,
Yeah.
and they're like, "We want to do experiments on you and turn you into us," and you're like, "Ah." So she leaves, I think.
She just sort of walks away.
She walks out of the scene. We never speak to her again. I don't think.
I don't think we see her again, but I assume she's probably still with them because they're way outside of the city. So
Yeah.
I don't think she could get back if she wanted to. Anyways, so they go back to Smokyville and they're talking about the cure, and then Tally bravely goes, "Fine, you can test it on me." And so she's gonna go back and elect to have the surgery so that they can later try the cure on her. And like the final line of the movie is, do you know what it is?
No, I checked out at this
The
point.
final line of the movie is, "I'm Tally Youngblood, make me pretty." Boom.
I just wrote my final note says Tally is going to infiltrate the liberals
Yeah.
because that's basically how it ends, right? So, well, no, that's not the final line because then they make her pretty, and then we have the scene where she has makeup
Oh,
on.
that
Remember
was
that?
the last good line.
Yeah, so it's at some point
She
before the
like
movie
wakes
ended,
up
we
in
like clearly
Prettyville and
both checked
everything's
out.
AI generated, and she's like, "Isn't this lovely?" And then the
Yeah,
movie's
and
over.
she's wearing makeup.
Yeah,
She's
she has
honestly
the
wearing
bulk
like
glamour
less
factor.
makeup than you're wearing right now. It's like
Yeah.
not even that much makeup. So it's like, okay, great.
We'll see if
It's
she
like
looks
you
the
could,
same in the sequel.
yeah, I guess. So that's kind of the movie. It's the first in a series of books. I assume they might do more. It's a Netflix movie, so who knows? Netflix is notorious for like making one movie and then not continuing it or like ending a series early. So this might be the last time that we see any of these movies.
I don't want it to be the
Um,
last time we see Dr. Cable.
I see. I agree. I would love more development on Dr. Cable. That's really what I want out of the series. But unfortunately, that's kind of all I care about. I didn't really feel super invested in any of the romantic interests. I
No.
thought Tally was kind of like somehow less
Insufferable.
interesting than Bella Swan, who is essentially the human version of a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
But yet Tally was less
Well, I think
memorable than
one of the
Bella Swan.
differences is Kristen Stewart's a better actor. Even though
Yeah,
Twilight isn't the best in terms of direction, she's still a better actor.
like I hate to come for this girl's acting as hard as you are because I feel like I haven't seen enough
Oh, I've seen
of
enough of
her
her. I've seen
to
multiple movies with
judge.
her in it, and she's Wish Upon. Have you seen Wish Upon?
No.
She was in Wish Upon. That movie's
Okay.
terrible.
I don't know what that is, but I believe
Have
you.
you seen Kissing Booth 1, 2, or Kissing Booth 3? How
No.
about
I
Despicable
what
Me
fuck
4?
kind of movies are you watching?
How
Jesus.
about Slender Man?
Oh, I think I did see that, but I don't remember her in it.
Like,
It's fine. I believe you. I believe she's untalented. Good for her. Um so what would you change about this movie?
I would well, I mean, it would have to vary greatly from the source material, which I think is the
Yeah, I
problem.
agree. I
The
agree.
problem is I would take the original concept and invert it and just make it about Dr. Cable, and I don't know, like there's no saving this movie because it's flawed from the conceptual stage. I don't think
I
there's a
think
good way to get what the point across that they're trying to in this entire concept.
so. I actually I would do a couple big things. First off, eliminate all of the scenes where we're just doing a montage of exposition. That is literally the laziest writing. Like that is the laziest version of writing. You're making a movie. There are so many ways to give us information, visual, audio. You have everything available to you as far as like the senses go, other than I guess like taste and touch. But like you can do so much with fucking movies. We don't
Hmm.
need a like TikTok edited version of the exposition of the entire world to start the movie. And like also throughout, that happens like 5 or 6 times. So cut all of those parts, do the exposition more organically, like anything that's well written. I also think that um a big problem with the source material is there's sort of a mixing of messages here.
Yeah.
Um, so the original book, the main takeaways that I got was socialism's evil, like
Yeah.
socialism, universal healthcare, evil. Despite the fact that we know as a society that societies that tend to embrace collectivism tend to be more successful and be more progressive and happier, etc. But we live in America where we think capitalism is the best option. So because of that, socialism, evil. And that's a big takeaway from the book. And that continues in the movie. The other thing that is confusing about the messaging is that surgery is evil.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is that it reminds me of we were just watching some movie trailers, and what was that one movie called that had similar body dysmorphia vibes? It was the Substance. Is it The Substance?
Substance, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a new movie coming out called The Substance, which we just watched the trailer for, and I feel like even in that little trailer, I felt that that movie had handled this entire topic infinitely better.
Yeah.
And I know when we watch that movie, it will be a better version of this,
Yeah.
because it's literally about people who inject a substance into their veins, and it completely transforms their body into a younger, prettier, like more like a likable version of themselves. It's the same concept, but it looked like there was a lot more introspection about what does this do to your psyche to have all of these extreme surgeries to completely change yourself. And it's not something that they ever really dive into in this movie at all. Which is
I think they needed to really highlight that there was an actual fatal flaw with the pretty system. That wasn't just like they needed to have a better actual like flaw.
Literally, I think that it's like we needed like a Soylent Green moment where it's like, oh shit,
Exactly.
we're
It needed to be
something
literally so
something
evil.
so horrible to make you realize like, oh shit,
it
like,
had to
this
be
is
something
all-
as simple as like because it kind of glazed over this earlier was that like earlier in the days of the surgery that there were like fatalities, but like it needed to be
Right.
like 1 in 3 people don't make it through the surgery and they just don't talk about
Or-
it. It's covered up.
I would even say something as something more along the lines of like Prettyville seems really pretty, but when you actually go in there and you're actually living there, like nobody's actually happy. They're like being forced to do some sort of horrible exploitative manual labor. Like there had to be more like
Yeah. There needed to be some more
there had to
actual
be-
ethical issues going on.
yeah, because it's like the way they paint it, it's like it's the idealized version of socialism where and nobody has to work a job that they don't want. Everybody's happy because all of the manual labor is replaced by robots, and there's no sort of like abuse of finance or power other than like, you know, obviously there's certain elements to socialism in this town where it seems like they have like certain living quarters and stuff, but it's not even explained. Like it's very possible they can choose their own house. Like we don't know. We don't get to that point.
So they don't dive into it.
Seems,
They really bank on us just thinking the brain lesions are bad enough that we turn on Dr. Cable.
right. Which like I trust and believe there are so many things you are doing in your life right now that are giving you brain lesions. Like fucking drinking like diet soda and shit can give you brain lesions. Like there are a lot of ways you can get brain lesions. On the video, the way it literally looks like you just pulled that Mountain Dew out of my tit. If you're watching on the like, YouTube channel.
Whoop.
Anyway, yeah, no, I feel like it was really lacking in villainizing the pretty society.
Mm-hmm.
It was lacking in giving us the introspection of how it feels to have a complete like I wanted more of a look on like, okay, so imagine for a moment you are a horrible goblin person that hates everything about yourself, and at the age of 16 you get to have
you need to give me something to imagine.
At the age of 16 you get to have 1,000 surgeries to fix everything you hate about yourself, and then you'll be your idealized version. I would like a deep dive on what does that actually do to you psychologically. I would have also liked a deep dive on like maybe it's like maybe the version of themselves that they get isn't what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have been an interesting take as well. Like maybe because it is implied that they're not really doing a lot of choosing of like, well, actually no, because they are, because she says she wants the eyes to be gold.
She sits there all the day long in their free time designing their new face.
That's true.
They get to be the exact version of themselves that they want to be.
Because this is fucking insane, but they do imply that it's completely eliminated racism.
Yeah.
Which means that in theory you can change your skin color.
Oh.
which is they didn't unpack the implications of that, but that is an insane element to just kind of gloss over, is that people are allowed to just pick their skin color, and there's nothing weird about that, I guess. And could you hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
Don't worry about
Okay,
it.
great.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. So anyway, all of that was wild. And there was something else I was gonna say. I had one more point to make. One more thing I wanted to change. Oh, eliminate a love interest. I think
Oh,
a love
yeah.
triangle is
No, it
great.
felt
A
weird.
love quadrangle, it's too many. For one movie, we don't need David, Paris, and Shay. And
No.
I feel like in the original book, Paris was not a love interest. He
No.
seemed to be like her gay best friend, and
That's
he's
what it feels like
barely a
in the movie,
character.
though.
Right. So it's weird that they build up this almost like romantic tension between them at moments. Because really the love triangle felt like it was between Shay and David in the book. And David really kind of wins her over. And this does upset Shay. And I do think that was portrayed really well in the movie. So
Yeah.
kudos to that.
I
But
will
her
say,
obsession with
overall,
Paris.
as an adaptation from a bad book into a bad movie, they did a decent job at getting a lot of the information in there. I don't think it was a good movie,
Yeah.
but like in terms of like novel adaptation, I guess they did a decent job.
Yeah, honestly, it's fairly faithful to the original. So I guess honestly, if you really liked the book and you didn't take any issue with the weird messaging and the sort of sloppy uh potholes and whatnot, then you probably would like the movie. There was not
Yeah.
a ton of differences. And the slight differences, I think they probably just changed for convenience, honestly. Because there was
Yeah.
definitely some scenes that they cut. Like there's this
That's
insane
why you
scene
say
in the book.
improve the movie. How would you do that? I'm like, well, the problem is that it's a pretty faithful adaptation of the source material, and the source material is flawed, so
Well,
it
there was
starts at
one
the
insane
roots.
scene in the book that they cut from the movie, and it's where we see the bungee jackets originally, which basically as a prank, Shay and Tally have a fake fight in the dorm room, and then Shay like pushes Tally to her death off of a railing, like in front of a
Hmm.
bunch of people for like fun as a joke. And then of course she uses the bungee jacket to like bounce, but it's to like trick these people into thinking they're literally watching someone get murdered in front of their eyes as like a fun prank.
Yeah.
So that's the original bungee scene, and they changed it in the movie. I'm assuming just for time or
To have
convenience.
more
I don't know.
hoverboarding scenes.
Yeah, so we could get in the Tony Hawk fucking PS2 skateboarding game scenes.
So, anyways, I don't want to spend too much more time on this movie because why would
You didn't
we?
like it? You didn't have fun?
How many um
Dirty pig girls.
how many 4-inch heels would you give this out of 10?
What the 4-inch heels?
It might be 3 inches actually.
Honestly, like my honest opinion, I think I would give it um a 6 out of 10 because Laverne Cox carried this film on her back like her fucking life depended on it. And that is the thing. That is the mark of a truly talented performer is that you can put Laverne Cox in a fucking heap of shit and she will make that heap of shit seem like it's actually worth watching. It's absolutely baffling how much she
Honestly,
carried this movie.
literally this movie would be a 4 or a 3 without Laverne Cox, but Laverne Cox
Yeah.
for me shoots it up to a 6 because I
Yeah.
every scene she was in, she was chewing it. She was eating it, spitting it out. She was
It was
chewing.
good.
It was delicious. I loved every scene Laverne Cox was in, and every other scene I was waiting for the next Laverne Cox scene.
You know what? I would love it if they would just like ditch the book series entirely and just give us a solo movie about Dr. Cable. Like just
Oh my
Dr.
god.
Cable's the protagonist, like maybe a origin
I was gonna
story
say I
or
need the Dr. Cable origin story,
yeah, like a
please.
Queen Charlotte type like
Mm-hmm.
spin-off that's just Dr. Cable. That is what we actually need
That's what I need.
from this series. We don't need to actually follow the books anymore. I don't think
I
I
don't need
care.
Tally.
Yeah, she's kind of boring.
I'm only
She's also
watching Pretties to see more Laverne Cox if it comes out.
yeah. She's also like I don't know. It's hard to not compare her to like the Katniss Everdeen's and the Bella. Like it's like she's in that canon of that early 2000 like girl protagonist, young adult fiction character, and she is not memorable compared to those other characters. Those other
No.
characters are iconic, and I don't even. I say this as somebody who hates Twilight. I think it's so bad, but Bella Swan is iconic. I remember her. She's burned into my memory forever. Whereas I
Exactly.
do believe
You
I will
remember
forget
Cat
about a young
Evergreen.
blood.
She's stuck in your brain.
Who?
Cat Evergreen.
Cat Piss Evergreen, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the. You know what? Tally can go in the category with the diversion girl because I don't remember anything
Oh my
about her.
god,
She's
what
gonna
is
be
her
in that
name?
category.
Yeah,
I just don't even
I will
remember.
say, even though this movie was a heap of shit, it's still better than Divergent.
Yeah, you know what? It gets that at
Though
least.
Divergent also, oh my god, it is like Divergent. Divergent is also a shitty movie with a shitty
With
lead
shitty
actor with
CGI.
a cunty villain.
True, but also terrible CGI.
Terrible CGI. I would rate it above Divergent though. Oh my god, I can't.
Yeah,
That movie was so bad.
we'll have to rewatch it at some point because I haven't seen
Oof.
that since it came out in theaters, and I don't remember hating it as much as the rest of society does. I just don't remember much about it, so I'd
I
love to
can't wait.
revisit it.
Great. Um. So yeah, that was Uglies.
Yeah,
Don't watch it unless you really want to, but like don't.
unless you just want to see the burn cock. Honestly, skip through the scenes and
Just
just
get to
watch
the
the burn
Laverne
cock.
Cox scenes, and then you'll
It's
be
honestly
satisfied.
it's worth watching just for her, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I will say when we did the watch party, some people in the actual watch party seemed to enjoy the film. So maybe we're just fucking hateful shrews because I do remember like there was at least one person who was like, "I'm really enjoying this." So, you know, it is what it is. All right. Well,
Yeah.
on that note, if you are a Patreon supporter, you can watch these movies along with us. We do live watch parties for all of the
Mm-hmm.
movies that we do podcast reviews on. Our Patreon supporters also have some input on what movies we watch as well. So if there's something specific you want us to watch, it will go to a poll in the Patreon if you're a Patreon supporter. And also, those episodes that are voted on will most likely just be Patreon exclusive anyway. So there will be some exclusive content there. And we record all these watch parties, so they are still available for you to watch along if
Mm-hmm.
you have your copy of the movie via your Netflix subscription, etc. But otherwise, we will see you all next time.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching and listening.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Oh my god, the credits are coming up.
Oh my god.
They're right there.